Wow, okay, so Michael Knowles is debating with somebody. Is abortion worse than slavery? Michael Knowles says, no, or yes. And the other dude says no, and Michael Knowles is gonna defend slavery. Let's listen.
Ooh, I know my answer, and I think I know your answer. I think this is easy. Abortion is worse than slavery. One, two, three.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think abortion is worse than slavery
How not?
because I think there are cases when abortion is acceptable.
Well, and there's no case where slavery is acceptable.
Correct.
Yeah, there's never a case where slavery is acceptable. To like, gotta question that. Shows you're a piece of shit.
Okay, there's a couple ways to approach this, but let's take it the first one. When do you think abortion would be acceptable?
Early on, very early on. Also, if there's like some severe deformities where the kid's not going to survive, those are cases when abortion is acceptable.
The cases when abortion are acceptable when the woman wants to have an abortion. That's the biggest, most acceptable reason. When it's, rape and the person doesn't want it. Whatever reason that the person decides is an acceptable reason. Whatever is. You could consider it to be the dumbest of reasons, but it's acceptable for them to have an abortion for whatever reason that they want because it's their body, their choice.
Why would you say so? Well, I mean, why do you think that would be acceptable then? Let's say, because those are two distinct categories.
Sure, I'm just giving two cases where I would say those things are far more acceptable than slavery.
But you wouldn't say it's acceptable to kill. You wouldn't say it's acceptable to have an abortion in the first trimester. Objectively, you're just saying it would be more acceptable than slavery.
No, I am pro-choice early on, although decreasingly so, given it's kind of very disturbing to me as a lifelong New Yorker to see how many of these slippery slope arguments across different issues have not only been validated, but like not only they put butter and margarine on that slope, they also put I can't believe it's not butter. So it's just like that thing is
so it's
greased as
because it's got seed oils on it too.
Yeah, the seed oils.
Poison, yeah. That's
but
because my argument that I think would be acceptable within a kind of libertarian or anarchistic framework for why abortion is always worse than slavery is that.
Wait, a libertarian framework? Aren't libertarians all about freedom? Wouldn't that mean the freedom of a woman having an abortion?
Abortion always ends a human life, even if it's a deformed person or even if it's a very early stage human life.
No, it's not considered a human life until the fetus is born, and then it becomes a neonate, i.e. a newborn baby.
And that the right to life is not merely one right among many, but it is the fundamental right without which the other rights cannot exist. Kamala Harris just had this.
Okay, yeah, everybody has the right to life. So does the woman. She also has the right to her body. I mean, let's check it. As a dead person, nobody can take your organs unless you have given permission to be an organ donor. So a person who can get pregnant shouldn't be required to be an organ donor just because they have a fetus inside them.
Great quote. The great philosopher of our time, Kamala. She was giving a speech at a pro-abortion rally, and she said, in our Declaration of Independence, we're promised certain things. We're promised the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. I kid you not. Yes. And you say, wait, what came before? Liberty. No, I think it was before that.
Yada yada, the good part.
Yeah, the right to liberty and the pursuit. No, what did you just call it?
Okay, if having a baby reduces a person's happiness, then they shouldn't be required to have a baby, and the Constitution protects that. Liberty, well, they have the liberty to not have a child or a fetus inside them, so the Constitution protects abortion. Life, well, it's their life. If they don't want to have an abortion, or they want to have an abortion, that's protected, and they can do whatever they want. If the mother is going to die from having a baby, well then, goodbye, baby. The mother's life is more important.
What did I just hear? And so, you can't pursue happiness without liberty, and you can't have liberty without
You
life.
can pursue happiness without liberty.
You think so? How can you pursue anything without liberty?
Because there are people who are in horrible places, like I talk about in my book. I've been to North Korea, who are pursuing happiness.
But when I say liberty,
Well, I wouldn't say the people like in internment camps are happy or able to pursue happiness, so that's not the best example.
I mean it more in the kind of Christian sense of the term, where one can never take away the liberty of one's mind.
Oh, yeah.
In a Christian sense, what is liberty in a Christian sense? Being a slave to God?
Okay, right. That is a
One's will,
precondition to assuming happiness, yes.
And so if slavery is a question of liberty and abortion is a question of life, then doesn't the question of life always have to take precedence over the question of liberty?
Yeah, but I do think that
Abortion is not the question of life. Well, they want to make it the question of life of the baby. Well, completely ignoring the life of the potential mother.
there are certain cases where first of all, I don't agree necessarily that early abortion is a human life. Second of all, and that's a whole, I know everyone, yes, I know all the comments, thank you. I'm sure this is something you've never heard before. But the fact that it's sometimes to me acceptable, whereas slavery is so beyond the pale. And I also love the idea, I can just hear the comments right now, that people, even though that was the question, are going to tell me that me being against slavery is virtue signaling. Because you know that.
So they're not going to be
look
upset.
Look at this badass. He thinks he's against slavery. Yeah, I'm against it because he brought it up. I did.
Well, if anybody who claims like being against slavery is virtue signaling are moronic people who actually support slavery and want to bring it back. That's why they're upset about people being against slavery.
Didn't bring it up spontaneously. I brought it up in response to the question.
I like the idea that it's not, people aren't going to be upset with you for being in support of abortion in some cases.
Right.
It's that you're against slavery.
Oh, look at this badass.
That's the internet for you.
That's true. I'm going to get heat for that.
Wow.
I wonder why this guy isn't asking him why he thinks slavery is better than abortions, because I thought Michael Knowles was going to be defending slavery, but in a way he kind of is by saying it's better than abortions, but he's not being asked why he thinks so.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I got that wrong. I mean, I think I got the question right, but I got your intuition wrong. Maybe we slide down the slippery slope 6 to 12 more months. Maybe my answer will be correct by then.
I am just gratified.
Wow, give it 6 more months and slavery will be better than abortion. Wow, this dude really wants to have black slaves.
That these different states that are enacting pro-life laws are basically declaring themselves anathema to awfuls, affluent white female liberals. Because it's like, this isn't your culture, stay where you belong. Yeah. And that, to me, is the most important aspect of the pro-life movement.
That's true. Hey,
or not most important, but a very important one.
But it is funny you mention that, because the pro-life movement, I mean, there are Democrats in the pro-life movement. There are leftists in the pro-life movement. And which I sometimes even forget, because I think it's all conservative, Christian, Republican type people. But there is something, I think, compelling as we see a political realignment going on, to just people looking at it and they say, well, the people on the pro-abortion side, they're just terrible. Yeah. They're just wrong.
It's not pro-abortion, they're pro-choice, which right-wingers hate women having, or anybody that isn't a straight white Christian male. If you have the ability and autonomy over yourselves, they get triggered.
Wrong about everything.
I can't call myself pro-choice, really, because first of all, if we're in a day and age where pro-choice means 9 months, I'm out of here.
Yeah, of course.
This is not an argument. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Nobody is waiting until 9 months to have an abortion. Usually that happens because there's some kind of medical problem in the life of the developing fetus that the mother usually wants goes into danger, or the life of the mother, and they have to have an abortion. Sometimes the fetus dies inside the mother and she has to have an abortion, but because of the anti-abortion laws, these mothers cannot have the abortion until they birth the stillborn baby. So women are being forced to give birth to dead babies, which can cause problems to the mother. But the so-called pro-life right-wingers don't care whatsoever if that happens.
Dave Rubin, last I talked to him on this issue, he was pro-choice. He was totally fine with abortion. And I've noticed over the years, I say, well, so when do you think it's acceptable? And he keeps pushing that date back, you know. And I think he's following that. I think he's following the logic of abortion as he thinks about these things. But I think a lot of it also has to do with, wait a second. So these people who are ostensibly on my side of this question, they're wrong about everything else. You know, that was actually
And ugly.
And physiognomy is never wrong.
But the other thing is, it's also different once you have a kid.
That's so
When there's a face and it's like, oh, then it's complete. You know, I'm an uncle now. It's not the same as being a dad, obviously, but it's.
Yeah, nobody's like advocating for abortions once people are born, because once you're a newborn, you get a whole lot of different protections going for you. But there is like some weird idea, I guess, that people are wanting to abort their living babies. Also, seeing the face, like in a sonogram, that's just some bullshit right-wingers force women to do, because they think once they see the face, oh, I can't abort this fetus even though I can't take care of the fetus, or, you know, it's killing me having this fetus.
It's just like, okay.
There's a similarity. I
Yeah,
mean, you
there are
see.
things. It's like, oh, okay.
I know plenty of women who have had abortions, at some early, some very late. And I did have this thought, because I have two kids. One just turned 2, the other one is 6, 7 months old. And I was holding my little infant baby, and I was thinking, especially a couple of months ago, I'm thinking, he doesn't look that different than he did in the belly.
Yeah.
Like that, they could. It's like, this isn't. You know, they tell you, the pro-abortion people, they tell you, oh, you can't see the baby on a microscope, and it's all just a complete lie. I mean,
Well, yeah, when the baby is like 7, 8, 8.5 months, yeah, you can easily see what the fetus looks like. But when it's like a zygote, or like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, yeah, it's nothing but a clump of cells. And right wingers love to lie and claim that the moment of conception, it's a living creature.
you can see these are like real. They got their little fingers by like 9 weeks or something. That's true. When you seeing is believing, I guess.